Welcome back to the Puck Bunker. This is episode 33. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host, the man who was once blocked by Eugene Melnick's burner account on Twitter, Darren Boyce. How are you doing this afternoon?
Did he really block me? I wonder what I said.
I think by now we've realized half the things I allege you to be are not always the 100% truth here.
It's up to the viewers to decide that.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. The old Sports After Dark account was known for some squabbles on the old Twitter.
Just like a shout out to our friend Bert, eh?
What's that?
A shout out to our friend Bert.
Yeah, to Bert and Ned. Dorian sideburns and backdoor pass back in the day. But we've had a few good ones between our little group, but so we really have nothing better to do a lot of the time. Today we are going to be focusing all about those weird ones, the lunatics, the crazy men between the pipes, the goalies. You got to be some type of special to want frozen rubber fired at you for a living, but that's what these guys choose, and today we're going to try and sort them out into some type of ranking. Now, as anyone who's watched the show knows, Darren Boyce grew up a goalie, pretty darn good one if I do say so myself. So I've pretty much deferred to him here, and we reviewed our rankings together, and I didn't have said to Darren, look, unless I have some kind of major issue with the way that you want to rank them, I'm just going to let you do this here. He's got a lot more insight into the positional and technical aspects of the position than I would, having never played it. So this is mostly going to be Boyce's project here today to run with, and I'm just going to try and keep up and hope we can go from there. So, Boyce, you've taken a look at the vast majority of the guys ranked by NHL Scouting.
I will state there's still a few more I need to look at, but these as of today are, looked at a lot of the ones that have been ranked pretty highly on the other ranking list, trying to get them together. I'd say I also kind of got off the board with one of my guys like usual, so I tend to be that guy. So, yeah. The other thing is too, we did have Chuck McTavish on a little while ago, so we're trying to kind of take into consideration some of the things he said to us on that episode, and in terms of, again, goalie size, their athleticism, really trying to things to gauge their mental capacity as well, which is kind of hard for a lot of scouts to do. And he gave us at least some pointers of what to look at there. So yeah, I'm excited for this.
All right. So do you want to start at number one and work our way down?
Sure.
We're not going to break these up by North America. We just have one list of all the goalies, and then, like Boyce said, this will be our second last time to do rankings. Basically, we have an episode coming up where we did some cool stuff. I've alluded to it a couple times. It will be out later this week. But then we're going to have our final rankings in June. So these can and likely will change once more, but it's coming here to the end of the season, so this could be pretty darn close to how we see the goalies once it all shakes out in another 6 weeks. So, Boyce, number one, top goalie available in this year's draft. The consensus is Joshua Ravensbergen. Darren Boyce, what say you?
Well, I like Joshua Ravensbergen. I think he's a very good prospect. I think he's pretty interchangeable with my number one, though. I don't think I could take either of them and I wouldn't be that upset. But I have Semyon Frolov as the number one goalie on my list. And my reasoning for that is that this is a 6'3" goalie. So yes, he's, again, large body. I find him to be the best athlete in the draft. He can do things in the crease that a guy like Ravensbergen just can't do. His movement is exceptionally good. He moves quickly in a butterfly. He's quick all over the place. He's rarely off balance. He's a great skater for a goaltender. Now, in terms of that, the thing that he needs to work on is that because he's such a good skater and a good mover in the crease, he is kind of all over the place at times. So that's, again, sometimes that's just, you kind of see that happen where these guys that are just so athletically gifted, that they're just used to kind of being all over the place in the net. Now, in my opinion, and that was kind of again confirmed when we had Chuck on, is that the thought process is that you can harness that. You have that natural ability, you have the right size of a goaltender. You have a guy who's performed at his level too. I mean, I think he's over a 920 save percentage in the Russian Junior League. I mean, he's a very good goaltender already. But this is a guy that you're looking at that could be, 5-6 years down the road, where you have that high-end athleticism, you have the guy with the right size, that this could be a potential 60-game starter for you. And that's why I have him as the number one ranked guy. This is a guy you want to give to your goalie coach, because he kind of has everything in terms of the body and, in terms of the body and athleticism that you'd want in a guy. Now, I mean, in terms of comparables, I said this before, I found him to be a little bit like Yaroslav Askarov that way. And Askarov was a top 10 pick. So I think there's value in getting this guy in the second round, to be honest, because he's a very athletic goaltender. And I would be quite happy to take him. Some things that he could work on. I mean, I think his glove hand could use a little bit of work. And again, just not being as active in the net, being a little more patient with, what's going on around him. I think that can come. But in terms of, again, the raw athlete is here. That's why he's my number one guy.
No, and that's very fair. And I, for whatever my opinion is worth, I have watched all these guys that we're talking about as well. We'll have a little maybe discrepancy on our number 5, but our top 4 is the same. Now Ravensbergen. Okay. So you say no, because it's a conversation to have, right? He's our top guy in North America, right? He's number 1 for us on the North America side. And you have him second overall, correct?
Yeah.
So 6'5.5", 6'5.25", massive body. And I'm a big fan of Frolov. I don't necessarily disagree. I think 1 and 2 and 3 honestly might be very, very close. But I'm going to push back just a little bit for the sake of it. I've seen the argument made that while Frolov might be the more spectacular athlete and might have the ability maybe to do some things in the crease, like you said, that the other guys don't, athletically anyways, I've seen probably multiple reports that really rave about, no pun intended, rave about Ravensbergen's poise and calm and not needing to make such crazy athletic saves in the net because he's so positionally sound and he's said to play a fairly mature game for a junior goalie. So how do you think something like that translates versus the pure unharnessed athleticism that Frolov has?
So first of all, I don't want to misconstrue that he isn't a good athlete. Like, Ravensbergen is a very good athlete for his size. That's why he's ranked so highly at 6'5.5". Is because he is a goalie that is pretty coordinated for that size and moves quite well. I think it will just come down to what the model that their goalie coach would want. So Ravensbergen is much more composed at this age. He's, I would say, more technically sound right now. One of the questions I have with him is that he still plays very back in his net a lot of the time. And that can work in the NHL. I mean, we've seen it work. You go with Connor Hellebuck, like, that's a guy who plays kind of back in his goal a lot of the time. That can work. Again, it's hard. Like, that's really hard to do at the next level. And so I do wonder at times if he can actually play that way as he gets to the pros. He can definitely play that way in junior, and he's quite good. A couple other things with him. In terms of his size, like, yes, he's 6'5". I find he actually struggles in traffic for a guy that's that big.
How do you mean?
he almost plays like he gets down low and he doesn't really see through. Like, he doesn't really see pucks well through traffic. When you're 6'5", you should be able to kind of look over what's going. If you're that big, guys can look over the play and see what's going on. That's something I think he's struggled with a little bit. I mean, just in my, 5 or 6 different viewings I've had of him, that is something that has happened with him that multiple times that have caused goals against. So that's something that I do tend to maybe, we'll look at and see if that gets better. In terms of his size, I mean, you can't beat the size. I don't think it's too much of an issue with, again, sometimes these big guys, they have like big 5 holes and stuff like that. I don't think that's really the case. He has a really long butterfly. He can take up a lot of the lower half of the net. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of that. Now, some people don't like the right catching goaltenders. There's just not a ton of them that end up being stud guys. But I mean, he's a good prospect. I think it's just kind of what you prefer. Now, the other thing is, too, you don't have to worry about Ravensbergen, if he's not playing, just going back to Russia and playing there. But the counter is that, again, at least as of right now, we don't know what these new NCAA NHL type rules are going to be. Frolov can also stay in Russia, probably play in the K for a few years and then come over and be pretty developed as a goaltender. So there's that portion of it, too. Frolov's also younger than him. I like that portion of it as well. So, I mean, it's kind of pick what you would like here. Now, watching Ravensburg in the playoffs, I thought he actually played quite well. Even again, people are saying his numbers weren't great in the dub this year, but I mean, goaltending numbers were fairly down in general in the CHL anyway.
They're not great in that league to begin with.
No, it's like I think people now are just expecting your draft eligible goalie to have like a 915 save percentage. I mean, that's just not really happening right now.
So, not in that league anyways, really.
No. So, I mean, I saw him in person again. It wasn't he didn't have a ton of shots. It was that the US, CHL prospects game in, I guess, October, November. And again, he looked quite strong in that game, looked quite composed, and he is a massive body. So, I mean, I have no questions that he can play in the NHL. I think there's the potential that, he's athletic enough at that size that he can definitely be a starting caliber goaltender. So, I mean, would I be surprised if he went 1 for the goalies? No, I wouldn't be. But that more to me just tells me how much I like the athleticism of Frolov. Like, I think it's
now
like go ahead.
Like we're like, okay, so these are our rankings on who we're projecting to be. We have the luxury of being able to make these rankings without our job on the line in the scouting department, right? Because there's not a lot of scouting jobs in the league. They're just not. So people don't like to lose them. So you can sometimes see risk aversion play a factor when 2 guys are really close. Do you think that these 2 guys at the top are close enough that you take the guy who's already in North America that you're not worried about never coming?
I don't think so, because I don't think either of them are really first. Like, they're going to be later first or second round guys. And there's already been proof. There's already been proof that teams are much more willing to take these Russian goaltenders in the second round. They're not worried about doing that.
No, and that's fair. So okay, so that's our top 2, and Frolov was actually ranked second in Europe or international, I guess, second international goalie for Central Scouting, and our number 3 is the guy who is ranked actually ahead of him by Central Scouting. So, Darren Boyce, tell me why you are smarter than NHL Central Scouting, and we have Andreyanov third overall after Frolov and Ravensbergen.
I don't know if I'm smarter. Like, I don't think I'm smarter, but I mean, earlier in the year, so Andreyanov is the guy in Russia who's had a massive year stats wise. I think he had like a 940 save percentage or something.
942, 37 games played, 1.75 goals against, 3 shutouts, and a 942 save percentage.
Now, I like him, and I did just watch him again today, and I was actually impressed even more by how he was. Again, this is another guy that's very mobile. He's extremely mobile. I think Frolov's a better athlete than him, but I mean he is very mobile. He's excellent when he's down. Very, very strong pushes. I mean his butterfly is quite wide. My issue with him is that he plays really low in his stance, or that was the issue that I had. And he's not as big as these other two guys.
Like too physically low to the ice.
Yeah, like he's very low the way he plays. So again, it's great. He covers the a lot of the bottom of the net. But for instance, I was talking about screens and that again. Like the way that he wants to play is to get down or get low to see through everything, and he's leaving a lot of net exposed kind of up top. Now, however, watching him today, I was very impressed, with how he played. I think he definitely, I maybe had him ranked a little lower before. I think he can definitely be in this category with these other two guys. He's just smaller than them. Like that's really
he's only 6 foot.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, I'll give him 6'1" maybe. So I think that's big enough. There's proof that is big enough to be a starting caliber NHL goaltender. There's some guys that can play that way, and he is athletic enough that he can do it. Now, I do think that he's more technically sound than Frolov is right now, too. I think that, does come into consideration. But yeah, I mean, watching him in the game, like I think he had like 40 some saves, and he's making some wild saves. Like he's really good. He's really good at staying upright for the most shots, but he has enough athleticism that he can make the desperation saves. Do
you think his legs are strong enough to compensate for his size? Because that's a big thing with smaller goalies. They need to have a really strong push.
So before I didn't think so. After watching him today, yes, I do. Because I watched him today, and the way that he pushes, it's not. So I've talked about this with you before. Again, I'm a beer league goalie. If I'm pushing across, I'm not good enough where I can push across and attack the shooter. I push across from post to post.
Yeah.
A lot of guys end up doing that. He doesn't. Like he pushes and attacks the shooter.
Pushes upwards while he's also going across.
And there's not a ton, and even in the NHL, not a lot of guys can do that.
Well, it's hard. The passes are going across so fast.
So a guy like Jonathan Quick did that, and he was fast enough.
Very effective. This is a tangent now, but when Quick was in his prime, I think he was the most dominant goalie when he was healthy in his prime.
He's a premier athlete, and he was bigger too, but still.
Yeah.
So that's kind of yes, I actually do now, because his push. The way that he could recover was actually quite good. I mean, he's very composed in net. He's definitely further along as a prospect than Frolov is at this point. It's more where you see them in 5 or 6 years again.
But you're willing to bet on the size and athleticism, and you can rein in the deficiencies.
Yeah, that would be, again, we're looking at these guys 6 years from now. And that's, they're goaltenders. Yeah. Like, this isn't 2 years from now. Whereas there is with a lot of the other players looking 2 or 3 years down the line. This is 6 years down the line. But I will say again, sorry, these are the top 3 guys. I think these are the guys with the most starter upside. I mean, that you can actually, and I mean, I think with Andreyanov, even if he doesn't hit the starter upside, he can play. I mean, like he could play and probably be like, at least at the very worst, a platoon guy. In the league. So those are, to me, the guys with the 3. And again, to me, it's upside. Can these guys be 55, 60 game starters? Do they fit, kind of the height template? Do they fit the athleticism template?
Does 6 foot goalie, regardless of athleticism, give you pause for wanting to pound that many starts onto a smaller body?
Might to teams, yeah. Does it to me? No. If your goalie's good, you play him.
Darren Boyce, yes. Play the hot goalie. I know.
I've always complained. I was off on a tangent, but I always complain about teams like, well, now that they set up their scheduling. So, who I think it might have been Forsberg this year at the Sens. Like he had like a shutout, a good game, and then another shutout, and then they didn't play him the next night because it was like scheduled that he wasn't going to play. I'm like, play the guy until play the guy. He's hot. Like,
but honestly, no. But like goalies are a fickle breed, and I think when a guy's it's like a gambler. You stay on a heater while you're.
Rocco, think of it this way: when you're a baseball team and you have a guy who's hitting in your lineup and he's 10 for 15, you don't give him an off day.
You ride it out.
Well, keep playing until he gave up 3 goals this game. We could sit him down now. Like, let's give him a break.
Yeah, I completely agree that you never take a hot goalie out of the net.
No, but every team does that now, and that's just that's kind of where we're at. But nonetheless, again, Andreyanov, I think
analytics say, Boyce.
Huh?
It's the analytics.
The analytics, honestly, sorry, another tangent. The analytics of that are off, by the way, because I saw that this year, and they were talking about the analytics of how guys play in back-to-backs, and then they're pointing out games that Jonas Johansson played. I'm like, let's not look at our backups and how they play in a back-to-back situation. Let's look at, say, our starters and how they look in a back-to-back situation.
I wonder what the numbers would be, regardless of starter backup, any goalie in the NHL that would qualify under the criteria. What would be the stats on the second day of a back-to-back when you gave up 2 goals or less, minimum 900 save percentage?
Well, I mean, the opponent matters too.
It does, but I just wonder what the numbers are on having, I guess, 2 goals or less over 900 save percentage. That's a quality start, by any measure. I wonder what the numbers would be on 2 back-to-back quality starts.
I'll try and find the tweet, but someone tweeted that out earlier in the year. It's these goalies on back-to-backs, they have it was 0.3 worse save percentage or something than if they do on, if they, it's not a back-to-back or something. Then you dig into the stats, and it's well, the guys who are actually the starters or the legitimate NHL goaltenders still clipping along at a 9-10 save percentage. So I don't know what the issue is then. Why wouldn't we play Igor Shesterkin in another game? I don't.
No, that's very fair. Okay. All right, back to what we're talking about here. So that's our top 3, and you would say that would be, those 3 guys would be in one tier of player.
Yes, I think and I say that because I think even if they don't technically hit, I think they're all NHL goaltenders. I think that's right. The other thing.
It's just whether they pan out to be 50+ game starters or not.
Yes, and I think they do have that upside. I think in terms of age, even with Frolov, I think you could harness him enough, and maybe he doesn't totally hit. He'd still, again, he has all the raw tools to be an NHL goaltender. Ravensbergen has the size and athleticism combo, at least, or enough of it, and composure to be an NHL goaltender. I think Andreyanov has that too. Yeah. So
now, our number 4, we have this player kind of a half tier below those top 3, and maybe a half tier above the rest of. He's kind of very firmly our number 4, I think, for both of us. Someone that we've mentioned here and there over the course of the year. Liked him at the Hlinka last year, and that's where it starts. He played great, I thought, in the U18s. It's Michal Pradel, playing in the USHL. So he's ranked 3rd in the North American goalie rankings. We have him 4th overall, ahead of Lucas Beckman, who is ranked 2nd North American. So we have Pradel ahead. Darren, this has been your guy, so I'm going to let you go now. And what do you like so much about this guy, and what makes him just a little bit below the other guys in your opinion?
Okay. So I'm just going to bring up his stats here because it's necessary.
I can give you the stats here for the USHL. USHL, okay, you can look at his other leagues, but 14 games in the USHL, 241, 899 save percentage. Unremarkable, but solid.
Yeah. So he kind of played all over the place this year, whether it was with Slovakia's kind of under 20 team, or he was in their under 20 league. They played in their second division pro league because he's on the under 18 squad. So their team plays against pros in Slovakia. So it's kind of, there's a lot of discrepancy in the talent that he's playing against. So whatever. It is what it is with him. He has to jump between leagues. Like, that is not easy to do.
No, especially as a goalie, because you have to learn the system of the team every time you switch teams, especially if you switch leagues too.
Yeah, exactly. So with him, first of all, when we watched him in the Holinka, I thought he stood out because Slovakia is not a good team comparatively to who they're playing. And I thought, at least in the Holinka, he looked great. I thought he was really good against Canada. Again, that's the summer tournament in August. He looked really good. He looked composed. The game, those shooters, again, yeah, I think they lost. I think they scored 4 or 5 on him, but I mean, I don't think any of those goals are his fault. He looked like the game was coming to him. He looked very patient, composed.
Yeah, I mean, it was an uphill battle. I mean, Canada was all over them.
Mhm.
There's not much he was going to do about it.
So things to like about him. He's 6'5". So again, this is a really, really big body. And he plays now, speaking of, say, I was concerned maybe more with Andreyanov, he plays a little low, or even Ravensbergen plays low. He plays very upright. So he covers a lot more of the top of the net. Now, the counter to that is there's a little, again, I would say he's not as great a skater as these guys, and he's not as locked in with his technique as those other two guys are. So there's a few more holes around. However, he combats that because he reads the play better. I think because he's not as good of an athlete as them, he is smarter than them in terms of the way he plays goalie. He reads the play well. I think he comes out and challenges well. He actually, again, with screens, he stays upright and looks over the play a lot of the time. So that's not really where he's not really getting scored on by not seeing a puck kind of through. It gets deflected or something, but he tracks the puck really well.
Vasilevsky is one of the best at that, at standing up really tall and looking over the play to read it.
Yeah. So that's something that I really liked about him. But again, I think he's also raw in his form. I think you could actually, like, again, I speak about, again, he has some holes because he's so big, and I feel like there's actually kind of a more natural ability to play goalie here. I don't think he's really been I think he's technically raw. But I mean, he plays a very confident style. The other thing I liked about him, if he ever gives up a bad goal, it doesn't really seem to affect him.
That's big.
Yeah, like he'll give up a bad goal and then he comes right back out and he makes like 5 or 6 saves right away. So he's not really, like, that's a good sign that he doesn't really get totally rattled.
He's not getting rattled. Yeah.
No. And again, I'll say this: he played pro teams in Slovakia and he played great. He was the best player on the ice multiple games. I watched those games and he played great. So I mean, this is a guy that's not afraid of playing teams that are again, his teams are inferior. They're playing teams that should be honestly crush their team. And he kind of is available to the task and wanting, kind of engaging in it and, performing well. So I like that part of him. So I think it's kind of again, his is a different skill set than the other 3 guys here. There isn't the athleticism component of the other 3 guys here. But he does have the 6'5" size that can augment that. And I think he's actually quite a smart goaltender in terms of what's going on around him.
So what would you see in terms of a projection for him in terms of upside and floor? Do we see a starter here?
I don't know if it's a 60-game starter. I think this is definitely a guy, though, that can play. I think he would have a lot of work to do still. Again, this is projecting years out. I think
this could be for some goalies. Sorry to cut you off, but I mean, we talked about 6 years, and that's kind of like the bare minimum. And I mean, we're a couple freak goalies can play under 24 in the league and find success, but for the most part, like I said, it's minimum 5-6 years till they're getting to the league. But the trajectory from draft day to starting goalie could be upwards of actually 10 years.
Yeah. Well,
guys come in all the time and they start from 27 to 33 sort of thing.
So I think what's promising
on either end.
So I think what's promising is that like he's willing to play above his level and he doesn't lose his composure or his confidence. So that tells me that that's a guy that can actually be taught and learn, because he'll be like, he's not going to get rattled if he struggles for a bit.
Yeah.
So I like that part of him. And it's just, do you believe that he can read the play at the NHL level? You know, can he read it at that speed? Because right now he can read it, I'd say, at Pro 2 speed. He's proven that he can do that.
Well, do you think he reads it better than the other guys we talked about, like you said?
I think he does right now, yes. Because athletically, he shouldn't be as good as those other guys.
Right.
And it's kind of why, like, the other thing too is he actually plays the puck very well, or at least better, like a lot better than the other three guys.
Like if he's not quite as athletic, if he's not as quite as athletic, but he still has the big body type and he reads the game extremely well, do you think he could develop maybe into like a high-end shot blocker type goalie, where he relies so much on his ability to read and you know, hopefully strong technical play?
Sure.
Is that enough at his size?
But he would have to, yes, he could, but he needs to, again, he will need to be better technically.
Yeah.
He's not there yet technically. Like, again, I would say like a guy like Andreyanov is actually, I think, quite technically quite good.
But technically, like, honestly, for me, and again, no goalie guru here, but for me, if you're going to have a deficiency, technically might be where I want it to be, because if you've had success while not being technically sound, that's something that can be worked on, right? It's harder. You can't work on size. It's harder to work on poise and mental strength after a weak goal. You can work on those things as well, but it's harder to do. Mm-hmm. So if there is going to be a downside, would you rather that not being the most technically sound right now, that might be the one you'd pick?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first three guys probably go in the second round.
Yep. Okay. I'll have a question for that later, but yeah, continue.
I think they probably do. Maybe one goes in the first, depending on who a team likes, and they have a pick late in the first, maybe. I don't really see any of them going over pick like 26, though. If we get into the third round here and he's available, specifically because of the players that are available too, I feel like, I don't know how deep the draft is past, at least maybe 55, 60, somewhere around there. Like that's probably where I'm willing to take a goalie like this, because I think, again, this is a development project, but you like the intangibles you see. You do like the performance already. And again, the size is exactly what you're looking for. As you said, I think it's a lot of technical stuff could make him a lot better. And he already kind of has the natural ability to be, a pretty technical shot blocking goalie. Like, I think he already knows how to read the play well and how to do all that. I think he knows, he sees the play happening again through screens and that, like, he follows the play well. Whereas, again, a guy like Andreyanov, I think, kind of gets caught up at times, not quite, kind of gets caught with his eyes not looking at the puck, or he's just a little too small to see over the play. So that ability translates at the NHL level. So again, yeah, like I think this is a development project that a team will, want to technically make him a better goalie, get him in your system, and I think this guy could really perform. Yes.
All right. Michal Pradel, guy that Boyce has been high on since the middle of August, and obviously still is here. So
yeah.
Now, Boyce, before we get into some little grilling, I guess, on your list. You got one more guy in your top 5. Obviously, we've covered the first 4. You're going to have to scroll a little way down the international goalie ratings to find his name. Ivan Tkach-Tkachenko, not Tkachuk, but Tkach-Tkachenko, I think. That's how we're going to say it. He's ranked number 11 for international goalies. Checks in at 6'3", played 40 games for Ufa in the Russian Junior League this year. 299 goals against, 908 save percentage. So not nearly the same caliber statistically as Andreyanov and Frolov, but he caught your eye for a reason. So what was it that you liked about Ivan the Great?
All right, so I'll start here with kind of my previous scouting report of him. Kind of a guy I had an eye on earlier in the year. But again, I think there's some rawness to his game, and I don't know if he really knew how to play the position as well as he does right now. But nonetheless, I'll just kind of go through kind of what I saw before. I thought he kind of looked uncoordinated early in the year. Looked awkward, wasn't great in traffic, was kind of swimming a lot in the net. Like that was kind of his issue before. You like the size, though. The size is there. He actually has quite good mobility again for his size and is very strong, can push hard. He has a lot of power. I thought he played a little low. I thought he gave up, especially in the top of the net, gave up a few too many, few too many goals up there. So, I mean, there was a prospect here. It was just kind of, he's raw. Like he didn't really attack the puck. He kind of reverted to getting back in the net. Kind of looked like he lacked confidence. Watched him again here recently. First of all, what's hilarious is that his number is 99, which is absolutely wild. So I already love this guy. Now, I do think because of his 6'3" size, and I think he has actually underrated athleticism. Like he's quite mobile in the net, and he moves quite easily around. That's off both feet. Like, I mean, he's good that way. So to me, again, this is a project, but that to me, that you're starting with the canvas of a 6'3" guy who can move around the net. We're in good shape here. Like this is a guy that we can develop this guy. He's shown improvement during the year too. He was definitely more upright in control later in the year. Like he wasn't swimming as much, and he looked, again, it just looked more like a professional performance. It was, he wasn't just running around the crease, falling over and everything. Like it looked very composed. He was, in position. He was patient. Those are good things you want to see from a goaltender. He has now his legs. The one thing I do like about his legs that he has a very long butterfly. He can take up the entire lower part of the net. And even while doing that, I actually didn't find that he had that big of a 5-hole. He wasn't getting beat there. And it didn't seem like it was that available on them. So that was intriguing to me that this guy looks like he's a big goalie that doesn't really have a massive 5-hole issue or one that he has to kind of alleviate. So I'm interested because there's improvement here. And I also think he's quite young for the class as well. I think he's like a May 2007 birthday. So, I mean,
End of May, May 30th.
Yeah. So like,
not necessarily young, but not,
that's young enough. I mean, that's, again, this is from what I've seen from a lot of, now again, there's some goalies that I've left out here that other people have ranked higher. To me, they all move a little. They don't move as methodically as maybe I'll take Pradel out of this, but they don't move as methodically as the other 4 guys. They don't have the athletic power while they're moving around the crease as these guys. And again, this is projection, like not what they are now. Again, the size and athleticism combo with this guy, who, and I believe he can skate, is something that is intriguing. So I'd be willing to take a shot on this guy. Now, maybe he's like, again, 3rd or 4th round. Why not?
Might be later than that.
Sure. Give him to me. I'll take that pick all day. because he has, to me, he has higher upside than some of these other guys that are around here. If we can just look at him here, I mean, I think he has higher upside than an Ivankovic. Again, people might not agree with me on that. There's a better body here. I think he moves around the net a lot better than Ivankovic does. And I think the legs are equal. Like Ivankovic has been, again, Ivankovic has really good legs, but he's 5'11". This guy's 6'3". That's a big difference. And that means his legs are longer and they're, again, he just takes up more net naturally. So if I think that he has the same ability as him and he's bigger, I mean, you got to take the bigger guy here. So
it's hard. It's hard not to, and we'll get to Ivankovic in a little bit, but continue on with Tkach-Tkachenko.
No, like that's just kind of where it was at. And again, even you look at his highlights here, like if we could get something, or maybe I'll put up some highlights of him early in the year versus the end of the year.
So you've noticed a big improvement in his game from start to finish.
His rebound control, literally at the end of the year, his rebound control is fantastic.
Would you say of the guys that we've named here, mentioned, he's been the most improved start to finish?
I mean, from how I've watched them, yeah. I mean, in terms of
that doesn't make him the best now, but it means he's started a lot farther behind than these other guys.
Definitely gotten better. Because if you're looking at him earlier in the year, he's just, again, he's swimming in the net. Like he kind of gets caught at times. Like it's unnatural things kind of going on in the net. But now when you see him, like, again, in some of these playoff games he's playing, he looks, again, he's composed. He's, again, another 6'3" guy playing out in the net, and he's athletic enough that he can do it. I mean, he's gobbling up rebounds. He can make the big save when he has to make it, and he's staying more upright in the net. He's not, like, if you're staying more upright, you're taking up more net. Like, it's very simple.
No, fair enough. So that's oh yeah, go ahead.
And I love his name, so the Sens should draft him. That's just what
Ivan Tkach-Tkachenko. I don't know. Someone's gonna have to give me a pronunciation lesson on that one, but Ivan, just Ivan, number 5 on our list, out of Ufa junior team in the Russian Junior League. Now, we are going to cover, I've got a couple questions for you. We're going to touch on Ivankovic as well. But before that, we each have one honorable mention to add to the list outside of the top 5. But a guy that caught our eye, Boyce, Petteri Rimpinen. That's a guy that you wanted to talk about, and you said he just missed your top 5. What is it that you like about him, and what made you kind of just bump him down one spot at the very end?
Okay. So Rimpinen's older than these guys. He's a D+1 here.
Yeah, he is a year older. He was a 2000. He was eligible last year, and got passed through the draft. He's a 6 foot goalie. He played 40 games this year in Finland. Had a 235 goals against, pair of shutouts, and a 912 save percentage.
He played in Liga. He played pro.
Yeah. Played. Yeah,
which is noteworthy here.
Very. Which is probably why he found himself on draft lists after being passed over.
Well, and he had a great World Junior tournament too. He was really good amongst his peers.
He sure did.
So he, again, has proven that he's good amongst his age group, and he's good actually playing against men. Those are a big deal. Now, he could be, I think, again, I've said this, my take is if I think they're on a similar tier, I will take size into consideration with these guys. So that's kind of what's happened here with him. Now, if I was going to take a smaller goalie in this draft, he's the one I would take.
So what do you like so much about him?
Well, he reads the play at an elite level. He's a really good athlete. Like, again, he moves around the net quickly, and he's never really out of position. That's another thing. And finally, just because he's playing pro in that, very patient, very trusting of his athleticism. He's not, again, the game's not too quick for him, which is, that's a really good thing to see from an 18-year-old playing pro.
Yeah.
I mean, so, like, again, a lot of people won't say that he's an elite athlete. And like, well, I don't know. Like, you watch him play, like he looks really athletic in the net.
Well, at 6 foot, at 6 foot to put up those kind of numbers in Liga across a full season and to play that well in World Juniors, you have to be athletic to be able to do that. That's as a 6 foot goalie.
But again, he's a 6 foot goalie. I actually think he sees through traffic better than some of these guys. Like, he battles in the net a lot more than some of these guys to make those saves. He plays bigger than his size. So again, he's not playing back on his goal line, for instance. Like, he is out, he is challenging, but I think he's athletic enough that he can recover and make those plays. But he also knows where the play is going, that he's not going to be caught per se. Now, again, I'm going to be a little overzealous of this, and yes, he's Finnish and blah, 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 blah. There is a little bit of Mika Kiprusoff the way he plays. Like, you do see it.
Now, there's a guy that battled for every puck.
You do see it. The other thing I would like to say, I go back to the pro thing. He's an 18-year-old that won a pro job in Europe, like on an elite pro league, and he won the job. That's really hard to do. Like, you have to have a lot of mental capability to actually win that job. So to me, like, very noteworthy that, I kind of won it at the end of last year too, actually. Like, he was playing in this league last year as well. So, I mean, this is, again, you like the mental makeup of this goalie. Again, moments aren't too big for him. He's willing to challenge himself. I mean, he went to the World Juniors. No one was talking about him. He was the best goaltender.
Yeah. He was great.
Yeah, he was the best goaltender and wasn't on – they were a good team, but he wasn't on the best team.
No.
And they beat the U.S. one game and lost in overtime in the final. Like, he played really well against the best team in that tournament twice.
He was phenomenal. I was there. I was at the game. He was fantastic.
And the other thing is, too, I think you could see it. He sticks with plays really well. There's some clips I can show here. He's on breakaways. He's not flying all over the place. Like, it's very simple. Like, he just waits for the shooter to make the first movement and he doesn't make it. Like, he's smart.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke about it, though. His issue is his size. Do we think that this can translate as a 60-game starter every year in the NHL? My answer to that is probably not. And again, but I also have questions still. Again, guy who might be the rookie of the year is Dustin Wolf, and I still have questions if he can still maintain that. It's really hard to do. However, do I think this guy is a guy who can probably come over and play pro in your organization quite quickly? Yes. I think he can play in the AHL probably next year if you wanted him to, or you can leave him in Europe. That's fine. Do I think that he provides a lot of organizational depth for your team? Yeah. Do I think he could step in and be a backup on a team? Yeah. Do I think that he could challenge another goalie for 40 or 50 starts? Probably. I mean, the way that he won a job. He was challenging himself. Like, he didn't just I got the backup job for in Liga here, and I just sat on the bench. Like, no, like I got my opportunity. I ran with it. Like, I worked hard and got the opportunity. And I ran with it. That's a guy I want. Like, I want that guy to be a goalie on my team. So again, I think he moves better than Ivankovic. The pro thing is, again, I think that's a bigger deal to me than, the year age gap between them. So, I mean, if I was going where a smaller guy, it would be him. I just think there's a little more. Again, I've seen more. I've seen it at a higher level.
Yeah,
that's really the answer there.
So that's Petteri Rimpinen. Boyce's honorable mention and very close to his top 5 now. I've got an honorable mention as well. Someone that honestly, I was just scanning through the guys and I'm like, well, this guy is a freak athlete, extremely athletic. I'm like, but I don't know what kind of style he's playing. He doesn't really have a style. He's just kind of out there making saves, like almost road hockey, almost a little Hasek-esque in terms of it looks a little goofy, but he makes the saves. And much like Rimpinen, this is a guy that was passed over actually in last year's draft, another 2006 born. That's 6'2" goalie who played 26 games for Magnitogorsk in the Russian Junior League. had a 210 goals against with 3 shutouts and a 929 save percentage. So better numbers across the board this year than Frolov. And that is Andrei Trofimov, who is, we're going to have to put some highlights of this guy together because this guy is like fucking entertaining between the pipes. I find he's so athletic. He almost glides across the ice. His push is so strong and fluid, and his legs are so in sync. He can get down into the splits like it's nothing. He can rest on his glove arm and kick his legs over his head and make a windmill save. And he can bobble a shot from 35 feet right through the webbing of his glove into the back of the net just as well. So a bit of an adventure, but a very, very high-end athlete who put up some very strong numbers this year. Boys, I know you took a brief look. Am I on the right track here with my report on this guy?
There's definitely athleticism there. He is
Lots of it.
I would say this politely, he's technically quite raw.
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
No, but again, that's you see, that's what's interesting about goaltending, right? It's a lot harder to scout, and it's interesting because I think every team kind of has a different mindset on what they're looking for. So he's again, you just said he looks like to be a very, pretty good athlete. 6'2",
he'd have to be a good athlete to make the kind of saves he makes.
Yeah, 6'2". So I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but the height is fine.
Yeah.
Is this a guy a team takes a flyer on later on? Because you're like, wow, like look at the freak athlete. We need to teach him to play goalie. Like this one.
Like when we're getting down to the end of the draft here, round 6, round 7. I mean, I'm looking for. Well, there's probably only 3 things I'm really looking for. Probably an insanely high skill guy who's undersized a lot, but has a super elite offensive tool. Probably a big defenseman who can skate. You could probably hit on those guys late, and then super athletic goalies who are just raw and kind of wild. And this guy fits into that category. So to me, that's an ideal late round pick because despite there being maybe a lot of holes in a guy like that's game, there are a couple of elite traits that are at least something to, develop this project around.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're drafting a goalie late, you're looking either for a guy who's 6'5" or 6'6" per se, who maybe doesn't move that well, that you think that you can improve their skating or their ability to move around the crease, or it's, again, maybe a freak athlete who's a bit smaller than them, but again, not as refined, not as technically sound, I would say with what's this guy's Trofimov,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm bad at Russian names. I really am, Don.
You're bad at North American names, Darren.
Is that he moves? He can move, but he moves he moves all the way through the crease and he's out of position. Like that's what happens.
Yeah, he's very athletic, but he's out of control.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is, again, we haven't really, again, he's a D+1. At least with Rimpinen, he's played pro. He's played in a pro league, and that's I think that will help him. And he's played on that world stage where everyone saw him play. All the scouts were there.
Yeah,
this guy's is kind of in the middle of Russia. Not a lot of teams are kind of hesitant on goaltenders anyway. So I would like
you said earlier, it seems like they're not on Russian goalies. Like last year, was not Russian goalies in the second round.
So, well, I mean, this guy's a later round pick, I think, just because he's a D+1. He's still playing in the junior league, but you have the athleticism trait there that someone will like. I think that's what will happen with him. I'll watch him more, though. I mean, if he can refine his game and you can move like that, then it changes his outlook. But that's what you're looking for kind of later I think that's what you're looking for with a goalie. It's either probably a small guy who performed quite well somewhere and shows some athleticism or decent athleticism, but he's small. It's a big guy who doesn't move well, but again, it's a project that you can improve his skating and movement around the crease. Or it's that maybe this 6'2", 6'3" guy who hasn't played a ton or doesn't, haven't really seen him a ton. He has good athleticism, but he's extremely raw. So, I mean, it's certainly worth a look at him. There's some decent goalies in this draft. I mean, I didn't really touch on some of the other guys, but I mean, like, again, Jack Ivankovic is ranked highly.
Yeah, let's get to Jack Ivankovic here, because he's done just about everything a guy can do aside from growing 3 more inches. So, like, is he just too small for our liking, Darren? And is he athletic enough to make up for being 5'11"?
I don't think he's too small. I think he can play. I think he's shown that he's quite good at, again, when he's playing with a good defense in front of him, he's shown that he can be quite a consistent, confident goaltender.
Very much so. He was phenomenal for Canada at the U18s.
It's very good for
Canada. Couldn't have played better.
Now he has, in terms of his feet, like he has really good feet in terms of making saves. Like he can make great legs for saves. I think he moves around the net just a little clunkier than Rimpinen does. I just don't think the athleticism is quite the same. I think Rimpinen's a better goaltender than him. Does that mean that Ivankovic can't make the NHL? No, it doesn't. I have him ranked after him. Like, it's just, I just wouldn't take him in the first or second round. I think after you get
fair. So I'm going to give you 3 names. The first one's going to be obvious. 3 names, and tell me where you think Ivankovic fits into this mix in terms of how he compares to these guys in strength and weaknesses, because these are guys that, to various degrees, have had success at being smaller guys. UC Saros, Dustin Wolf, Devin Levi.
So Saros is a better athlete. Like, Saros is a freak. So he's the classic freak athlete, small guy.
Yeah, he is.
That's why he's a starter, because he probably is the best athletic goaltender in the NHL.
Pretty damn close.
I don't know. Like, someone can argue that, I guess, but like, he's pretty close. And even then, I think there's still kind of a level between him and the best guys. Like, I think he can have more of an off year than some of these other guys. Like, I think that does happen to him. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Levi,
I find the small guys, the bad games, if they're not on their game, it can go south in a hurry.
Yeah. So Dustin Wolf is probably what you're hoping for. And I think he got drafted in the 7th round.
I think he'd be thrilled. I think he'd be thrilled if that's what you got out of it.
Now, Dustin Wolf is a very good goaltender, and it took him a while. Again, he had to perform in the pros. And I think Ivankovic can do that. Now, I think Wolf is, again, a little bit better athlete than him, but that's the outcome you're hoping for. And now Wolf also has to prove that he can be a 55, 60 game starter for multiple years.
Yes. And yes, it's hard because guys will get the book on a goalie, so it's hard to be that good year in, year out.
So that's where I get hesitant. Again, I would say this: I'm a lot more hesitant to call guys starters than a lot of other people are. This happens constantly in our, we talk to our fantasy group or even, online people, again, I think people are ready to anoint like, oh, Wolf's going to be a starter in this league for 10 years. Like, I don't know about that. We haven't seen that yet. What we've seen is that he had one good year where he had, how many starts did he have this year? 55, like something like that. Like he played really well. Can he do it again? Like, that's the next level up here. Because there's levels to it, right? There's the 15 game backup. There's the backup that can play 30 games. There's the tandem guy who can play 40, 45. There's like a tandem starter that can kind of play 50. Then there's starters. Then there's elite starters.
So Dustin Wolf was 53 games this year.
Yeah. So it's like, again, I'm willing to see him do it again. Like, I want him to do it again. It's just like, it's hard to do. Like, it's hard to play goalie in NHL. It's hard to be a guy who can play 65 games every year, year in and year out.
Well, let's look at Andrew Raycroft, right? Won a Calder Trophy. Was Rookie of the Year. Had 57 games played and a 205 and 926 for the Boston Bruins. He started. He never went above 912 the rest of
the
sort of. That year he played 57 games. The next year he played 30. The year after that, His first year with Toronto, he played 72 games. And then after that, 31 was his career high. Had injuries, obviously. But never went above 9-11.
Yeah, but
never went
injuries.
above 9-11 save percentage after his rookie year. So guys can get a book on you. So like that's kind of the buyer beware story on a hot rookie goalie. That's a guy where, you know, it looked obviously started very promising and for one reason or another it didn't turn out.
Now the counter to that is if he's Andrew Raycroft and you picked him in the 3rd or 4th round, that's a really good pick.
A phenomenal pick.
So that's kind of where, like,
and Andrew Raycroft was a 5th rounder for reference. He was a 5th round pick who had a hell of a career. I'm not trying to take away from Andrew Raycroft. Just
another
an example of a guy who peaked. Yeah.
A very good junior goalie too. He was a very good junior goalie.
Sure.
So it's hard. And so when you look at most of the starters in the NHL, the guys who you would consider to be high-end starters, there's not many that are under 6 feet tall. And whether I'm wrong to take that into consideration or not, we can argue that. In my opinion, exactly. So in my opinion, I'm playing the percentages here. So you could say this is me, the gambling side of me, or whatever it is. But that's what I'm playing with here. It's a percentage. Side. If he was 6'2", he would be higher here. If he was 6'5", he would be substantially higher here.
And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. So
yes, but that's just so. Look, do I think that he is excellent when he plays for Team Canada? Yes, I do. Do I think, am I worried that that's going to translate to the NHL? Yes, I am. Do I think am I so off him that I don't think it will? No. Like, I think he can definitely be an NHL goaltender. I'm just not, to me, I think there's, to me that looks, the way that he translates to me looks more like a tandem guy. Like you just pointed to Andrew.
So you're more comfortable with him. You're more comfortable with him in the middle rounds then.
Yeah. Like you just pointed to Raycroft. Raycroft was a tandem guy. That's really who he was. He's a tandem goaltender. So like, again, and I just said, if he was that guy, we draft him in the 3rd or 4th round, that's a great pick.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's fair.
Whereas I'll just state this at the end. So whereas the difference is with, say, like Tkach-Tkachenko, do I think there's a chance that he doesn't play? Yes, I do. But you look at the skill set and, the improvement already, the body, the way he moves, that looks like a guy who can actually be a starter if it all hits. Like that's really, I think there's, again, I think, so if you're asking the question, is there's more divide probably with him? Yes. Like I think there's division in what the outcome could be. But I think there's higher upside there that's what translates there. So, now, I mean, maybe some teams just want a guy that they know will play pro for them and just in their organization. Maybe they already have a starter locked in for 7 or 8 years and they're looking for org depth. Like maybe that's what they're looking for.
Or maybe they think he can be Dustin Wolf.
Maybe. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying it can't. It's just the likelihood is less. That's all.
Yeah, no, for sure. The smaller you are in goalie, the greater the margin for error becomes. Now, one last question for you before we call this a day. Is there any goalies on this list? And this is not a prediction of what will happen. I'm asking what you would do. Is there a goalie on this list worthy of one of the first 32 picks in the draft?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
A lot of conviction there, Darren.
Well, it's after 21, pick 21, 22, right? Then everyone's kind of in the same. After that, I guess we did that in the mock draft, right? After in that spot, it's kind of where it falls off a little bit. There's choices.
So do we see a goalie in Darren's final first round at the end of the year?
You won't see it in mine, no. But I also have this. I have a bias with never doing that. Just for reference, I am a person who would rarely, if ever, take a goalie in the first round.
They'd have to be head and shoulders above the next guy.
You have to have the whole, yes, you would have to have the body, the athleticism, and the actual body of work in a pro league or playing at a higher level than they're supposed to be for me to take you. And even then, I'm a little hesitant because Again, these are 18-year-old kids. These guys aren't going to play until they're 6 years from now.
Yeah.
I also think with goaltenders, there's a lot of value taking these guys second and third round. I think there's a lot more value in goaltenders than there is in other players there. I think.
Yeah, I think because they're, and like there's no doubt they're probably the hardest position to scout and project because there's so many variances in the different leagues that they play in and also the teams that they play on within those leagues. It can make such a massive difference. So it's notoriously and pretty much unanimously agreed upon by the scouting community that it is the hardest position to scout. And as such, probably a greater likelihood that guys make mistakes early, which in theory should give you a better chance to find the best guy later on.
Well, let's put it to you this way. I think it's a lot harder to find elite offensive talent.
Yeah, because it's easier. Because it's
right. Like, is that a general consensus there?
Yeah, because it's way easier to identify.
So there you go.
It's the elite offensive talent's the easiest to me. It's the easiest thing to pick out in scouting. The top offensive players make themselves known and obvious all on their own. The casual hockey fan can pick that guy out usually.
So to me, there's much more likelihood that you can find. No, not always.
Usually,
often you can find a Vezina Trophy winner after round one.
Yep. Whereas you're not going to find
rare. It's very rare that you're going to. Yeah, it's very rare you're going to find a Hart Trophy guy. Again, as a forward anyway, in the after round one.
Yeah.
I mean, Nikita Kucherov, I guess, kind of takes that away. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot harder.
A huge mitigating factor with Kucherov because that was the height of the Russian scare. Mm-hmm. So that almost doesn't count because his talent was obvious.
So would I be shocked if Joshua Ravensbergen went in the first round? No. There's a team like look at Nashville. Like they have multiple picks. They could use a goalie. No problem with that. San Jose also has multiple picks, and I know they took Askarov, but like they could take another goalie for sure. They have multiple picks, and they probably should have another goalie in the pipeline, like in case A, he doesn't work out, or B, he gets hurt or anything. Like, probably want another guy. So, I mean, I would be fine taking them. I'll take them in the second round if teams want to take them there. Now, no goalie should be going above like the 22nd pick. Shouldn't be happening.
No, completely agree. Completely agree. I don't think we're going to see one inside the top 20 for sure.
No, I think that's incorrect. And I think that's, again, just with what's available, I think there's a lack of high offensive upside in the draft that I think you need to be taking it up there. Now there is some D depth in this draft, at least, into the second round. I agree. For me, if I was picking in the 30s, I would probably take one of the D and then look to take a goalie later on in the second, early in the third. I think that's probably what my strategy would be. But again, I'm also in my basement in a bunker and have no, I'm not going to get fired over it. So, I mean,
you never know, Darren. Our 1-year performance review is coming up. I don't know what I have to say about you so far, but no, I'm kidding.
No, it's just but that's my general viewpoint on drafting goalies. Like, you need to be as sure as possible to take a guy in the first round.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So, I think that's a great place to leave it for today. There you have it. Our top 5 goalies plus honorable mentions as of mid-May here. We're gonna do 6 more weeks of video here until the draft, and we'll have the next time we do a ranking, it'll be our final one. I mean, we're gonna put some stuff out this week, but aside from that, I mean, we're gonna try and put out a lot of content here between now and the draft. If you're following along and have been, thank you. Please share it with your friends who are coming up as more teams get eliminated from the playoffs. Fan bases are looking to the draft, and we would love for you guys to send your friends over. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later this week. Boyce, thanks very much.
See you later.